the capital as well. That's one of the things that the Financial Advisory Committee has really been helpful at is, looking at other key performance indicators. We've been looking at revenues per cover for a while, but they've actually helped us develop some other key performance indicators that we actually calculate every month and discuss with them and the board. Revenue per cover. In 2014, this is the first year we really started to calculate this, we were at about $13.40 per cover. So a cover is an individual coming in, having a drink, having something to eat. That is a cover. Then in 2015, we're projecting about $14. So it's gone up almost 60 cents a cover. And then in 2016, we're projecting $14.60. So we're projecting again another 60-cent increase in our covers. And so we're going to try and do a lot of things to increase purchases of alcohol as well as dessert. So those are items that actually help us drive some of those cover prices up. And so we're looking good. That's what you want to see, is that revenue per cover going up every year, because in some years like this year, our covers are actually kind of flat. And I saw Chief Williams kind of chuckling when I said alcohol, and that's still, we want our residents and guests to drink responsibly, and we'll make sure of that. Our food and beverage cash flow. I was looking back in 2011, our loss in food and beverage was almost $400,000. We're now projecting a loss this year of about $196,000. We're getting it under $200,000. That's going to be close. It really depends on how it goes this month and next month. We're about $8,000 ahead of budget right now. And if we can do that, we're going to be right in that $200,000 range. So we're targeting to try and get below $200,000, but it's going to be close. Next year, we're targeting a loss of only $182,000. So each year, we're moving in the right direction. We're taking that down, and so we're going to continue that approach, kind of whittling that down. Hopefully one day we will be at least a break-even point. In terms of capital expenditures, spending about $79,000 this year. Next year, we only budgeted about $30,000, and I'll show that next. Master amenity projects, the $13,000 this year is primarily design work for renovating Fireside Lounge. And then next year, the $176,000 is a combination of renovating the Fireside Lounge, as well as doing some planning work for the Stonehenge Clubhouse. So here's the capital. So we've got about $20,000 in there for kitchen equipment that may break down and it doesn't make sense to repair. Another $10,000 for china, glass, silverware, and miscellaneous furnishings. And pretty much every year you have to replace some large quantities of that and what have you due to breakage and things of that nature. So that's your $30,000. And then again, the 176, actually about 136 of that is Fireside. The other 40 is Stonehenge Clubhouse renovations, and that's the plans for that. And we'll get into more detail of that later. Go to recreation and racket sports and cover the budget. We're going to have some rate increases for the marina rentals. We've got recommendations from our marina supervisors. So most of the rentals will be going up in some fashion next year, but not substantially. Cash flow. Revenue's going up a little bit in recreation and racket sports, and that's primarily due to those rate increases that we're talking about at the marinas. Expenses going up a little bit. So your excess revenues this year projecting $95,000. Next year budgeting $106,000. So it's relatively flat. Capital expenditure is only $11,000 this year, but we have $40,000 next year. Show that on the next slide. And then your master amenity projects, $200,000. That's actually for the racket center, planning and starter construction. And that's going to be a 2-year project similar to Dorchester, where we start late 2016, we finish up in springtime of 2017. So here's your capital items. We're going to refurbish 4 pontoon boats. Every year we refurbish some of the pontoon boats. It's really the seating that we're doing because they start to get cracked and really dirty where you can't clean them and what have you. We'll actually replace one of our pontoon boats. That's about $20,000. So that's your $40,000 of kind of your normal recurring capital. And then your $200,000 is what I mentioned before. That's racket center improvements and the plans for that, and then also starting construction. And that one of the main things we're trying to accomplish there is to create 6 outdoor pickleball courts. Pickleball, one of the fastest growing sports in the country, especially among seniors, and it's mostly played outside. So we feel like we really need, if you go to any new community, their courts are outside. Lake Providence over in Mount Juliet, outside courts. Tellico Village, outside courts. So really we feel like to be competitive, we need to have outside courts. Next, we're going to go into the community center and activities. And at the end, we'll bring this all together in the consolidated statement. We will have some rate increases here as well. Looking at basketball currently, you pay $1. That's going to go up to $2. The pool punch cards, currently it's 20 punches for $20. We're going to take that 20 punches for $40. So you're ending up with $2 per visit. That's really the same price as the preferred card, and really doesn't make sense for a punch card to get a better deal than a preferred card. So that's why we're taking that up. Then pickleball, that is the preferred rate. It's currently $3.50 for 1 hour per person. We're going to take that up to $4 per hour. And most of the pickleball rates are going up 50 cents for an hour of time, 75 cents for an hour and a half of time. So you can see the revenues going up $194,000 this year to about $217,000, and that's really due to those rate increases that we talked about earlier. Expenses also going up. Again, a lot of that is payroll related. So the excess revenues are still going to be in that same 550 to 560 range. Capital expenditures about $28,000 this year. Next year, $70,000, and I'll show you that. And again, long-term debt going up. So that's the debt that we have on this facility, and that is paid off by the end of 2022. Okay, for our capital budget, $5,000 just for furniture and fixtures. Every year we need to do some replacements of the furniture and fixtures. Also $5,000 for audio-visual equipment and miscellaneous program equipment. So we try and keep those dollars low. But every year you need to do some upgrades of your equipment, furniture and fixtures. Then every year we typically need to do some pool repairs, pool deck painting, as well as repairs to the pool itself. So we budgeted $12,000 for that. Then the last item really is the biggest item. That's a 15-passenger van. Our buses are really aging, a lot of miles on them. We'd like to take the 29-passenger bus out of service. That's the one that really we use as a backup right now. And then actually purchase a 15-passenger van that it's a Ford Transit product, has a real high top, and actually has seating so that you have an aisle down the middle. So it's very easy to get into and just walk down the aisle to get to your seat, similar to a small bus. So that's what we're looking at there to replace that 29-passenger bus. So we'll have a 25-passenger bus and a 15-passenger bus, so we have a little more flexibility for some of those trips that maybe we don't get over 15 people. So that's your total $70,000 that we mentioned. Okay, now we're going to bring it all together. First, bring the amenities together. So that was those 4 areas that we talked about. Golf, food and beverage, racket sports, and then community center and activities. Then we'll look at the consolidated cash flow, adding sewer and the POA, and get into the debt service as well. So for the amenities, when you bring it all together, you can see the excess revenues, which is the third line down, loss for food and beverage about $182,000, golf $500,000 income, racket sports and recreation about $106,000 income, community center about a $560,000 loss. So altogether about $136,000 loss. Then we'll spend about $780,000 in normal capital expenditures. We'll spend about $408,000 for principal on long-term debt. And then we have master amenity projects of about $376,000. So we end up having to transfer about $1.7 million from your POA fund into your amenity fund to keep the amenity fund at the $1.6 million cash that we had at the end of 2014, beginning of this year. And that's pretty typical in this industry and communities like this. Your dues are really what helps pay for all the amenities that you have, because you really can't charge enough in your amenity fees to cover all the cost that you have with your amenities. So it's pretty standard in this industry. Now, this brings it all together into your consolidated FGCC budget. So you can see the sewer funds will have excess revenues about 1.1 million. The POA fund about 2.7 million. And then your loss that we just show for the amenities fund of about 136,000. So total excess revenues about 3.6 million. But then we spend about 1.6 million in capital expenditures, your normal recurring capital expenditures, looking at the far right column. Principal on long-term debt of about $1 million. And then about $401,000 on your amenity master projects. And you can see at the bottom the interfund transfers that we're doing between the POA fund and the amenities fund, about 1.7 million. So you end up with about $615,000 in net cash flow for 2016, which is very good compared to this year, and I'll show you a slide later on that. We start out the year with about 3.6 million, so adding that 600,000 will end up projecting about $4.2 million in the bank. Now that's broken out by 2.2 million in your sewer funds, about 400,000 in your POA fund, and then about 1.6 million in your amenities fund. Now this is a summary cash flow that kind of compares 2016 budget to 2015 actual. And if you look at the highlighted yellow column, you'll see that 3.65 million that we talked about earlier is your excess revenues. Then we end up with principal payments of about $1 million, so you're down to available capital about 2.6 million. Compared to 2015, which is the white column to the right of that, of about 3.4 million. So we're about $200,000 better projected, actually budget 2016 versus projected 2015. Now we are going to have more principal payments because those go up every year. So the net is about $130,000 more in cash flow before capital and before debt service next year compared to our current year. And then the capital, we're actually going down on that. And again, that's really Dorchester. So we don't have that big project next year. We're only spending about 2 million versus 2.7 million this year. So we end up with about 661,000 in savings from your capital side. And so the net difference between 2015 projected, actually a cash flow deficit of 176,000 versus 614,000 projected or budgeted for 2016, almost $800,000 swing. And now 2015, even though it's a loss, we actually budgeted more than that. We budgeted over $300,000 as a loss cash flow, and that was really, again, because of Dorchester. We had planned for that, and we knew it would happen. So we end up down at the bottom. Remember on the last slide, I said about 4.2 million. Then we try and say, okay, what do we really need for operations? And for sewer, we've kind of taken the approach that we probably need about 3 months worth of operating in capital, and that's about $500,000. So sewer ends up with about $1.6 million in what we'll call reserves for capital projects and things of that nature. So they're very healthy. Now the POA and amenities, you really have to combine them. We've said since I've been here that we need about 1.5 million in cash for operations, and our capital expenditures kind of the monthly. So it's basically 1 month's operations. And so when we do that, we end up at the end of next year with POA reserves of about $530,000. Our target is to have $500,000 in POA reserves. So as we do some things in 2017 and 18, we don't have to borrow as much money. So we're looking good, from that standpoint. That's what we were trying to accomplish with this budget. Let's talk debt service now. So in debt service, you can see the first line item is our principal. And so wastewater treatment plant debt. Fiber optic was to have Vol First run fiber optic to all of our facilities out here. And then hopefully in the near future, they're going to actually start running some residential. We're still working with them to see, where they want to start that and when they can start that. So obviously at this stage, it looks like it's going to be sometime in 2016. Then we have the Stonehenge facilities, and then the community center. So you can see that principal of almost $1 million that we're budgeting, and then interest is about $315,000. So our debt service alone is about $1.3 million every year. Now, at the end of this year, we project to have about $5.7 million in debt. The end of 2016, about $4.7 million debt. So it'll go down about $1 million. Let's talk about the amenity master plans. In 2015 and 16, we started the Dorchester Clubhouse. Back in 2014, we actually completed it in August of 2015. Fireside renovations, we have planned completion date of March 31st of 2016 for that. And really that's going to be just totally redoing the interior of the fireside. New carpeting, new tables, new bar top, new back bar, change the ceiling, eliminate that one wall to the left of the fireplace, and creating a banquet area over there, or excuse me, a buffet area over there. So it's really just taking that and updating it to be more in the 21st century. Then the Stonehenge Clubhouse Pavilion, we need to do some more planning in 2016. We're actually going to engage an architect, spend about $40,000 with them to do 50% plans. We'll then take those plans that are basically construction plans to a 50% detail level. We'll put that out to some contractors to get pricing on that renovation and addition, where we add the pavilion to the right side of the clubhouse as you're facing the clubhouse from the parking lot. Then we'll use those estimates from the contractors to compare that, a renovation addition, to actually a new building. And we've got some history with Dorchester as to what those costs are, so we can actually compare renovation addition cost versus new building cost to determine what makes sense for 2017, 2018. So that's the process that we're going to be going through. And then I spoke about the Village Center Master Plan earlier. Again, just land planning for all that land around the four-way stop area. This was the old Dorchester Clubhouse and the new Dorchester Clubhouse. That was our grand opening event. And then this is an even better picture from number 9 Green that Steve Kraft took for us. If you haven't been down to the clubhouse, all the photos in the clubhouse are from Dorchester, except for the 5 in the lobby. We have our signature holes from each of our courses in the lobby over the water fountain. And Steve Kraft took all those photos. So we really appreciate all his photography, and we use all of it in our marketing. So Steve's done a great job for us in that vein as well. So again, talk about the 17-18 projects, do planning for Stonehenge in 16, finish planning in 17, hopefully start construction in 2017, finish in 2018. So similar to the Dorchester approach. And then in 17, we hope to finish the Racket Center improvements in early 2017. Now, this is a schedule that kind of shows you a 5-year look at our amenity master plan. We actually started this in 2013. The first thing we did was the St. George Marina Pavilion. Then we also did the Dorchester Pool House. So that was done in 2013. So you can see the second column over is 2015. You see that big 1.3 million number. That's your Dorchester Clubhouse. 13,000 below that. That's planning we've done for Fireside. Then 2016, you see the $200,000 up at the top for the Racket Center. And then the Druid Hills Fireside Legends renovation, about $137,000. So the total budget for that is $150,000. And then we've got $40,000 down at the bottom for Stonehenge, and then $25,000 for the Village Center. So those numbers for 16 sum up to that $401,000. If you continue going down, we actually have our projected cost through the end of 2016, and it's about $2.7 million. When we first established the budget for 13 through 17, actually, we established a budget of $4 million, and we had, dollars every year. So through 16, if we accomplish what we have there, we actually will be about $500,000 under the budget that we established back in 2013. If you carry it on into 2017, our total budget, and that was a 5-year budget, was $4 million, and still will be about $200,000 less than that $4 million that we established back in 2013. And then if you look out to 17, 18, you see in 17 up at the top, that's your additional $300,000 for the Racket Center. So that total project is budgeted at $500,000. And then down at the bottom, you'll see $750,000 in 17 for Stonehenge and $810,000 in 18. Those are some rough estimates based on some information from contractors, based on Dorchester. So in total, about $1.6 million that we have in Stonehenge, and you go back to the beginning 2014 for a renovation / addition to Stonehenge Clubhouse. Last slide that we actually started this last year, I have just to give you all a flavor. We've been doing this monthly too in our board report, just to give you a flavor of the revenue that we receive from the resort guest. And these are estimates for 2016. The community center, we estimate about 38% of our department revenues will come from resort guests, about 52% at the St. George Marina, about 60% at the Dartmoor Marina, 11% racket sports, and that's something we definitely need to improve. We need to see that higher. I'd like to see that over 20%, like most of the other ones. 23% in golf. A lot of that is driven by the pricing that they pay. They have higher rates, and that helps drive those numbers up, which is good for y'all. The F&B is just an estimate. Using the others, we figure probably 20% of our revenues from F&B come from resort guests. We say a definite significant decline in revenues in food and beverage in the months of November through February. And that's when the occupancy rate here is down to like less than 20%, as well as we have some of our residents go elsewhere for the winter time. Now, we're working on with that new software system I mentioned. We're working on some programs so that hopefully we can actually start to track resort guest revenue in the food and beverage area as well. So we'll have more on that once we kind of finalize those plans. But the goal is to have that in place by March 1st of next year so we can have better tracking there. The assessments are about 16%. And if you look down at the bottom, the equivalent units, we've got about 487 timeshare units, and we've got about 5,000 homes. Okay, so the 487 timeshare units represent about 9% of the homes. but generating about 16% of the assessments related to homes. These are not assessments related to lots. These are home assessments. And that's really because we charge the resort units 2 times what we charge the homes for their assessments. And so that's why you see that, that larger number. Sewer fees, about 8% are generated from resort guests. And then the pool fees, about 55%. That relates to the outdoor pools. And that's a standard number that we get from the resort guest. It's not a per-use fee. It's a flat amount that we get on a weekly basis from the resort units, total up to about $58,000 for the year. So when you add that all up, generate about $2.5 million in revenues for the community. We're saying 20% of department revenues. When you look at our total revenues of about $21 million, it's well over 10% of our total revenue. So they definitely generate a lot of revenues for us, which is good, and that helps us keep the fees reasonable and the HOA dues reasonable for y'all. And that is my presentation. Then we are going to open it up for some questions from the audience, but then also if you're not comfortable asking a question here, feel free to send me an email at bweber@fairfieldglade.cc, and I'll respond to that. Then the board vote is on December 17th. So we have basically a 30-day comment period here, and then the board will actually vote on the budget on December 17th at their normal board meeting at the library, 9 a.m. So with that, I'll open it up. And are the microphones on, Jose?